forward here. Okay, I'm hoping that all of you were able to look at the material for Monday, which is the last packet for the GI system. And we're going to start today by looking at the checkpoint questions from that topic, as well as I think we had some checkpoint questions from Friday. So we'll look at that, but before we get into that, I have a few announcements, a few important things that I want to mention. So myself and Dr. Schlater, Dr. Jalazny, we've noticed that there's been some consistent complaints about the last exam. And so we want to kind of address that and just kind of offer what we can do to make up for that, or to accommodate you all in doing a little bit better. Some people were kind of worried. I got some emails, people were worried about their performance, and I know it was a new format. And so what we decided to do is offer an extra credit quiz worth 10 points. So you don't have to do this if you think that you scored okay and you're happy with your score. But if you did not, just because it was a new format and getting used to the essay type response, we will offer a 10-point quiz that will be available. I'll try to make it available today, but it will be due on Sunday. So you'll have a couple days to work on that. And it will be some of the questions from the renal system. So you'll get an opportunity to earn some points if you just weren't happy with your score. We've also decided to give you guys a choice. So if you want to have a multiple choice exam, yeah, you can still do the quiz if you think that you were happy with your score. It's going to be extra credit, so I'm not going to bar anyone from doing it. You're welcome to do that quiz as well. And it will be extra credit. So it'll be 10 extra credit points on renal material. The second thing I was saying is that, I'm going to release a survey, and I'll try to do that today as well. So look out for an announcement with these two things. So we're going to give you a choice if you'd like to go back to having a multiple choice exam for exam 4, which just remember will be on final day next Thursday. If you want to have a multiple choice exam, you can choose that. But if you want to have an essay exam, we're going to allow that option as well. So if you think that, you prefer this essay type response, it worked out for you, you performed a little bit better than you would have otherwise, you can still opt to do that as well. And the format will be the same. So it'll be that same 2 questions, one on chapter 20, one on chapter 22, with kind of 3 smaller parts to each question. You'll have that option as well. If you want to take the multiple choice version of the exam, it'll be 16 or 17 questions. They both will have the same extra credit opportunity that we typically offer with the exam. So stay tuned for an announcement when that survey goes live, and stay tuned for the extra credit quiz. So someone is asking, will there be a weekly quiz? So I will not do a weekly quiz this weekend, right? Since we have all of that going on, there will not be a traditional weekly quiz. Let's see, someone else is asking, will the multiple choice be 50 points? Yes, they will both be equal to 50 points. If you take the essay version, it'll be 2 25-point questions. If you take the multiple choice version, it'll be 16 or so multiple choice questions. And then again, they both will have extra credit opportunities. Okay, and so that's what we've decided to do. So you won't lose either way. If you felt like you liked the essay and you want to keep that, you can choose to do so, and vice versa. Also, I want to remind you all about the practical. So the practical is available. I don't know if an announcement went out, but it's available. It's multiple choice. It's all in Blackboard. It's due on Sunday. So by Sunday at midnight, you should have an opportunity to go in there and complete your practical. I think it's 45 questions. 2 points each, so 90 points, and I think you have an hour total to complete it. So let me know if you have any questions as you get to do that. And then the last announcement I have here is we've also decided collectively to waive the 1 lecture exam requirement. So previously you had to pass at least 1 lecture exam in order to pass the course, even if you had an overall passing average, because it is possible to do that. we've decided to waive that requirement. So let's say you're passing 72, 73, you haven't passed a single lecture exam, we will still allow you to pass the course. So we're waiving that requirement. And that's just in light of everything that's carried on in terms of passing the course. Okay, so I just wanted to get those announcements out, and then we'll pick up today. So in terms of wrapping up the course, we're kind of getting towards the end here. We'll look at a few checkpoint questions from the GI packet today. We'll get into the reproductive system, that first packet. And then on Friday, we're going to use the first 30 minutes to finish up reproductive packet 2. But wherever we get to halfway through class, that's where we'll kind of just finish up the material. And so I'll reserve 30 minutes on Friday for general questions, for a bit of review, and to talk about anything else you guys would like to speak about as we wrap up the course. Okay, so I hope that all, I know that's a lot to take in, but I'll send out an announcement with kind of some more details later on today. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen so we can get into these checkpoint questions. And I know I said I would have posted the actual questions, and please forgive me, I forgot to do that. Let me hide this here. But I did post these slides that have answers in them. So these are already there today in today's Zoom recording. So if you did not get to look at the questions because I forgot to post them, you can go and look at the questions with the answers included today. So I'm just gonna kind of run through these and let me know if you have questions on the actual checkpoint questions or on Monday's material. And then we're gonna proceed with today's topic. So these are the checkpoint questions from the absorption packet. So question 1, the digestion of carbs is completed when they have been reduced to which form? And then when are proteins digested completely? Okay, so carbs are completely digested when they're broken down into monosaccharides, right? They must be completely broken down to monosaccharides. That means even disaccharides and polysaccharides must be broken down to monosaccharides. I think I overlooked the second part with proteins, but we should remember that proteins are digested when they get down to peptides. Remember, proteins have to be broken down to peptides. And when they get into the cell, they can further be broken down to amino acids if they haven't already been done so, okay? And I'll try to include that here because I think I overlooked that. Question 2, are absorbed fats transported directly into the bloodstream? The simple answer is no, right? Fats are not soluble in aqueous environments, so they cannot move around our body as readily as other micromolecules. Fats are absorbed with the help of chylomicrons. So they're not water soluble, but they do require these chylomicrons, which kind of goes into the second part of the question. What are chylomicrons and what is their role in absorption? So chylomicrons are a group of our lipoprotein family. They're basically proteins that kind of latch onto these fats and transport them around the lymphatic circulation, which is where fats are absorbed. Remember that lymphatic vessel, which is the lacteal, is in the middle of the villi, and that's where fats are absorbed and then taken in through the lymphatic circulation, and then they can be entered into the regular circulation or absorbed in the liver. Question 3, what role do bile salts play in the digestion of fats? And we know that bile salts emulsify fats into smaller lipid droplets so that they can be absorbed by lipases, which are enzymes coming from the pancreas. So we're not going to say that bile salts digest fats because this is not an enzymatic process. We're going to say that it simply breaks them down into smaller droplets, and that process we describe as being emulsification. Okay, and remember, bile salts are coming from the liver, stored in the gallbladder. Okay, let's see. We've got a question here. Oh, so this is kind of off topic. I'm going to just answer this quickly. When are mastering AMP grades going to be transported? So hopefully by the end of this week, there are still some outstanding, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to go in and do anything that you would like to at this point. And then by the end of the week, I will transport those grades over to Blackboard. Okay, so good question. Let's look at the checkpoint questions for the packet from Monday. So this is material that you should have gone over on your own with the help of that video that I posted on Monday. And so we'll look at some of the checkpoint questions here. This topic had to do with motility, so how motion of the GI tract facilitates absorption and digestion and movement of that chyme substance through the tract, as well as secretion, which is basically the contents that are dumped into the lumen in order to also aid those processes. So question 1, what is the role of carbonic anhydrase in stomach acid secretion? Which other ions are secreted along with hydrogen ions? So we know that the stomach has this really acidic environment, and the enzyme carbonic anhydrase helps to catalyze the reaction which produces that acid. So that reaction converts CO2, carbon dioxide, and water into hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions. This happens within the parietal cell. And you should have seen this drawing if you went over this material. So this is where we have this enzyme carbonic anhydrase. This is a parietal cell, which is in those pits in the stomach. We've got CO2 and water being converted into bicarbonate. And then these are the hydrogen ions that are produced, which are secreted out into the lumen of the stomach and creates that acidic environment, which is combined with chloride ions to create hydrochloric acid, which is stomach acid. Okay. All right, let's go back down here. And then the second part quickly asked, what other ions are secreted? And that's going to be bicarbonate ions, and they're going to go into the bloodstream via the basolateral surface. Question 2, of the following stimuli, which would be expected to stimulate gastric acid secretion? So there was a list here, and we had to sort of select which of these would stimulate acid secretion from the stomach. So distension of the stomach will certainly be a stimulus for acid secretion. Distension of the duodenum, no, right? The duodenum is going to be beyond the stomach. So distension of the duodenum is going to be a stimulus for another secretion, so secretion of CCK and secretin, but not for gastric acid secretion. The third option here, increased protein digestion products in the stomach. Yes, that's going to be a stimulus for acid secretion. The fourth option, increased acidity in the duodenum. Again, nope, that's beyond the stomach, so it's not going to be a stimuli. And similarly, increased osmolarity in the duodenum will not be a stimulus for acid. So distension of the stomach is a stimulus for acid secretion. Increased protein products in the stomach is also a stimulus for acid secretion. Also things like taste, touch, our sensory receptors. When we see a plate of food, the presence of food on the tongue, salivary secretions, all of those are going to be stimuli for acid secretion as well. That's why when you see a meal, or if you see a picture of a meal, you kind of already start feeling that stomach motility, that acid secretion in your stomach, as well as watering of the mouth as saliva is being secreted too. Question 3, of the following stimuli, which would be expected to stimulate the secretion of enzymes or bicarbonate-rich fluid from the pancreas? So first off, we've got increased acidity in the duodenum. That is certainly a stimuli for enzyme or bicarbonate fluid into the duodenum. A rise in plasma CCK. So if you remember from this packet, CCK, actually, let's go back to this side. Here we go. So CCK is going to stimulate the release of enzymes from the pancreas. Secretin is going to stimulate stimulate the release of bicarbonate release from the pancreas. But understand that these two things are also stimulating each other. So CCK potentiates secretin release, likewise secretin potentiates CCK release. So not only are they doing two things independently, but they're also stimulating or potentiating each other. So anything that stimulates CCK will also stimulate secretin and vice versa. So that's a really important connection to make to look at this question. So if there's rise in CCK levels, that will be a stimulus for secretin, which will also produce one of these products. And if there is rise in secretin levels, that will also produce CCK, which will also give us one of these products. So both of these are going to be correct options here. A rise in plasma CCK and a rise in plasma secretin. Decreased protein digestion in the duodenum is not going to stimulate, but is going to decrease these productions, right? A rise in protein will actually increase. And then we know that increase in the presence of fats, increase in the presence of amino acids in the duodenum will also stimulate enzyme release from the pancreas and bicarbonate fluid from the pancreas. So these four options would have been correct. Increased acidity in the duodenum, increased fat or amino acids in the duodenum, increased CCK levels, and increased secretin levels will do one of these two things, enzyme production and bicarbonate fluid